Hello everyone, I'm back with another video for you today, and I wanted to make some videos regarding this new game that is in closed beta now, the Bazaar. It was made by Reynad. I'm sure many of you have heard of him. He used to play Hearthstone, and yeah, it's a pretty good game. It's got some problems here and there, so I wanted to make a video that helps explain the game so that, you know, if you're watching future videos, you're going to understand what's going on. If you try the game yourself, perhaps that can be helpful as well, but also to, you know, give some content to the guys who already play or know what's going on with the Bazaar, and yeah, hopefully give you my impressions on the game, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, that kind of stuff. So, with that being said, let's jump into a game and I can explain some of the mechanics quickly, and then we'll get into sort of the review portion a little bit after that. Let's go. Okay, so the Bazaar is an auto-battler. If you've played anything like TFT, Hearthstone Battlegrounds, even Dota Underlords, all kinds of, you know, games, they all have different takes on the auto-battler genre, but the basic premise is we have a character, we are trying to buy things which will go onto our board, and we will then battle automatically with the things on our board against a human opponent. Now, the Bazaar has a lot of PvE encounters, so you see on the left here we have a sort of track for the day, and this basically measures, you know, what encounter you're at, and there are 6 encounters in a day. Once you finish a day, you then play against a player. So there's one PvP, one PvE fight, and the rest is accumulating items, which will go on your board. So we start here by grabbing an item. You know, it doesn't matter too much what we pick here. And essentially, in this game, it's all about having weapons or, you know, friends, companions, things that you put on the rug here. The rug gets bigger as you level up. You can get XP. You also have skills, as we see here, which will in some way benefit the weapon that you have. For example, here we can get permanent, you know, damage on our weapons. So let's grab that. The weapons you see here have some kind of damage, and they have a cooldown. So the Switchblade is an 8-second, you know, timer on which it attacks the opponent. You see the health here that we have. So it's you know, fairly basic, I would say. Way that the combat works, you basically just have your items, they're like cards, and you know, you wait for them to trigger. Certain items will interact with other ones and cause them to trigger more quickly. You know, you have things like haste and slowing effects, which, you know, speed up or slow down the ability triggers, the item triggers, I should say. And yeah, you have lots of different ways to synergize. There are also several other mechanics. You know, you have damage, you have shielding, which prevents damage, you have healing, of course, which heals you back up during a fight, and several others, which I think should become fairly apparent. You've got poison and burn, essentially, which are longer-term damage sources. If you poison an enemy, think Slay the Spire kind of thing. If you poison an enemy or burn them, it's going to kill them over time. If you know, you have to be a little bit patient. So we have gold in the bottom right here. You're basically going through these shops, buying items. You see this double barrel shoots twice. It deals quite a lot of damage, but it has ammo, so that's only limited amount of attacks with it. And yeah, that's the basic premise of the game. We go through these encounters. We you know, choose now a PvE fight, so we can choose which creature we want to fight halfway through the day. This is the combat. It's pretty straightforward. At first, I think it doesn't look too amazing. I will say that. Like, when you're first playing, it's like a little bit weird getting used to watching items attack the opponent. But I think after time, you know, after some time, it does become quite enjoyable. The fights to watch can be quite exciting, depending on what build you're playing. There are some builds that are very slow, and those can be a little bit tedious. And even the early fights here, we sort of have to wait for the timer, which will start killing each player, you know, since the fight's taking too long. But yeah, this is the basic loop of the Bazaar. We need to get 10 wins to complete a run, or if we lose all of our prestige, which will happen from losing player fights, and only the player fights count for the victory. So we need to beat 10 people and avoid dying too many times. Fairly straightforward. We also have a backpack here. We can store items that are not useful. We can also sell the items. You see the tag here on the bottom left. Shows how much stuff can be sold for. And yeah, we're just going through, picking one of 3 options each time, buying items, and yeah, it's fairly straightforward. So you can even re-roll the shop. I can show you here. You can do that one time, just, you know, in case there's nothing that you want to buy. Items also have sizes, I should say, so of course a small item is probably weaker than a large item for the majority of the time, at least on a base level. But of course you can fit 2 small items for every 1 bigger item that you have. There are even large items, these are mediums, so you get ones that are even slightly bigger than this. And yeah, as I said, you can find XP, you can level up, and that will make your rug size bigger. The maximum rug can be, you know, this entire thing. So this is a player fight, if we wanted to play this out just to show you what the PvP looks like. This is asynchronous, so somebody else has done a run they've been playing, and it's memorized, you know, it's taken their build at a certain point in time, and we then play against it, you know, try our best to beat them. Looks like we probably win this. We've got quite a decently strong start here, so you want to get those early wins on the board and then build up to a very powerful composition with some synergies and powerful effects, and lots of skills and the like. Oh, we might not actually be winning. It's going to be quite a close one, it looks like. I think we just about get there. You see the ammo. No, we actually die. Okay. You see the ammo stops dealing damage, so it's quite limited early game. That's sort of the downside. Once you get some refilling ammo effects, then it can be a bit better. So, yeah, that's basically the mechanics of the game. I'll talk about some of the downsides of the gameplay now, yeah? So how good is the Bazaar actually? I think the early game for the Bazaar is very fun. You know, you're going through the encounters, you're building a board of like hodgepodge things, maybe they fit together, you're being fed some items that fit in your build. You know, it can be fairly satisfying early game, getting to a, you know, decent composition, as it is. You know, in some auto battles I think you struggle because if you lose fights early it can feel very punishing. Oh, here, by the way, we can upgrade items that we already have if we find them again in the shops, similar to other auto battlers. We can buy stuff. And you see here, we level up, we get a bigger board. But yeah, some of the downsides. So I think one of the main issues with the Bazaar is the late game is not that enjoyable a lot of the time, compared to other auto battlers, which have you sort of consistently improving your board, getting to a more powerful composition. At some point in the Bazaar, you sort of just find your perfect build, and then you have to sit there for several days, you know, clicking through encounters, fighting the PvE fights. That's one of the main issues. In the late game, there's not a lot to do with your money. In other auto battlers, you can re-roll down a lot and, you know, find all the necessary units, upgrade your units. In the Bazaar, we don't really have that at the moment. Anything like that, so you kind of end up sitting on a lot of gold, not really doing anything, waiting around for the game to end, which is not a very good feeling. So it's a little bit clunky in that aspect. I would say there's been a lot of bugs as well, and a lot of server problems, at least for European servers, and yeah, so kind of to be expected perhaps in a closed beta. Hopefully it's not indicative of the future. As well. Balance has also been a little bit wonky so far. They have released a balance patch, which has sort of nerfed a lot of the things that were very oppressive and overpowered. There were a lot of builds which essentially instantly kill the other player, and you've got, you know, interaction in the endgame fights, which a lot of the time is freezing the opponent's stuff as well, or even trying to destroy their items and things like this. Ended up being a little bit... One-shot builds are quite popular, quite common, quite powerful, and it's probably more fun to one-shot people, but to be one-shot is not very fun at all, right? So a little bit of a tricky thing to balance there, because you kind of want people to have the power fantasy of being, you know, super strong, killing the opponent very quickly, but at the same time that's not very fun to play against, particularly if you're trying to play a bit of a slower build with something like the poison mechanic, you know, or even just slower items. I will say the sort of ranking system and the matchmaking for this game is also kind of wonky. It doesn't seem that there's any actual MMR system in the game, so you can play ranked and you can earn rewards for playing ranked, and you can, you know, rank up, as it were, but it doesn't seem like there's only MMR, and you're just kind of playing against random opponents a lot of the time, it feels like. Or it feels like their run is not really matched up to your run in the way that you would expect from if you play a normal auto battler and it's sort of an 8-person lobby or whatever amount of people in the game, then you're going to get the matchups that, it all sort of makes sense. Everyone's at exactly the same point in the game. Some people have been losing consistently. Maybe they're going to be a little bit stronger as a result. People might be on a winning streak and have a strong board because of that, or maybe they're not going to be that strong because they haven't been, investing in the longer term, more powerful things, but instead short term stuff. So in that sense, it can feel a little bit off. Like, you don't feel like when you play against someone with a lot of wins that there's necessarily any rhyme or reason to their build. They might have a very strong build, they might not. And yeah, something doesn't quite feel right with the asynchronous aspect. And that's another problem is, if you want this game to be to have longevity and to be sort of quite fun and interesting for people to play, I think you do want some kind of competitive mode. At least from the auto battlers I've played, it feels like if there's not some proper competitive scene, a la TFT, for example, or even Storybook Brawl, I know had some ranking system that was quite addictive to grind. If you don't have that in the game, then I think people's interest will wane fairly quickly. It's also just a shame for me. I love competitive games, and climbing the ranks, playing tournaments is very fun. The other problem is just actually playing the ranked mode and getting rewards does require you to get 10 wins in a normal free run to unlock a ticket. You get 1 free ticket a day to play ranked, and then you can unlock tickets, by getting 10 wins in normal. That's quite a challenge, and certainly for more casual players, they're not really going to be able to, get much in the way of progression in this game, I suppose. I mean, it'll be quite a slow drip feed, and then you're going to have to pay money to buy new characters, potentially, which, the game has to earn money in some way, I suppose. But that might be a bit frustrating and not a very fun sort of progression system for casual folks. For competitive folks, even can be a little bit frustrating, if you get a 9-win free run, only to get nothing from that. It's a little bit painful. So perhaps they'll change that. But I see that as a bit of an issue in general, yeah. But I think those are my main gripes with the game. The core gameplay is pretty great. The polish and the effects and the environment, what have you, the art, all very nice. It feels like a polished and pretty addictive game. I've been having a lot of fun with it, but there are certainly some issues. Some of them to do with the core gameplay, I feel like, which might be hard to address. So if you're not super excited by the gameplay, then perhaps wait for the game to come out in open beta, give it a try, and if it seems like a game you might enjoy, then you can always purchase the closed beta, which can't say whether I'd recommend doing that or not, but the decision is yours. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Bazaar. I will be trying to make some Bazaar content, and hopefully now you have a bit more understanding of what the game is, some of the pros and cons to it, and yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoy the video, subscribe for more, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.